April 29th, 2020. Hi, my name's Tom Yakopin, and this is the Tom Yakopin Podcast. Welcome aboard. I'm here today live. This is our first podcast where we're going to be doing an extended version featuring a guest one introduced to you today, Mr. Jim McClelland of Yesco Contracting here in Washington County. And we're really going to get out of the way and let Jim do a lot of talking today about some of the challenges that self-employed and small business owners are facing in the coronavirus COVID-19 lockdown period. Also want to give a quick shout out to those individuals who attended the Harrisburg rally, the group Reopen PA. Salute to all of you. I want to thank so many Pennsylvanians who took time, really didn't know what it was going to be like, driving to Harrisburg. What are we going to encounter? What's going to be like? But I do think that a statement was made. I think that, people are twisting it and turning it, and we can talk a little bit about that. But also wanted to shout out and just kind of show off some of the signs. Thanks to 84 Sign Company and West Penn Life and Health who sponsored these. The virus is not killing us. Woof is. Restore Liberty Now. That was fun. These were some of the signs that we were able to feature out there. I like this one. Liberty began in PA, right? Open our business now. Think about that. The rich heritage of liberty in Pennsylvania. And by the way, if anybody's interested in using these as stand-up signs, I've got them in my office's window. This is the virus is not killing us. Woof is another one of those. One of my favorites, right? Yep. Jim, I think you can relate to this.
Yeah, that's true.
Working lives matter. So we went out. We had a good time. I went out with my girlfriend and my one of my neighbors who is also a small business owner, and had a great chat on the way out. Felt like we made a difference there. But boy, what a powerful gathering, and what an unusual time. So let's get talking about, Jim. Before we get into your thoughts and feelings on the situation, tell me a little bit about Yesco Contracting. When did you start? What do you guys do?
Well, we started actually when I first moved to Pennsylvania. My family heritage is back from this area, Washington County. I was born and raised out in San Francisco Bay Area, California. Right. Moved back here 2004 and started the company as soon as we moved back. Started off as a small 1-2 person little handyman work originally. Then we ended up doing remodeling, started to get more work. Our specialty, actually my expertise, is in ADA upgrades, whether it's ramp, doors, bathrooms, and those kind of things. Yeah. Started picking up a lot of work with that. And we got into remodeling, company grew, and then we had some great steady business for quite a while, and we were doing real well. Just recently we decided to re-engineer the company and rebrand it, incorporated the company, changed the name to Yesco Contracting Incorporated, and really went out and started picking up more commercial business. Started to grow our commercial side. We had predominantly been in residential with some light commercial. And right now, the commercial business is still out there. The whole time we've been shut down, we've been bidding work, even though that we know we can't start right away. But the projects still have to be done, and some of them are weather related. So, but yeah, we're actually, we do commercial contracting. We do residential contracting. Mostly residential, is remodeling. Okay. So we work inside the four walls when it comes to residential. We're not home builders. But when it comes to commercial, we'll do everything from the ground up.
Okay. Residential, bathrooms, kitchens, yes. Things of that nature.
Yep.
Making the place pretty, bringing it up to date, things of that nature.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of kitchen remodels, baths, and basements. Okay. It's a lot of what we've done. We've done some major rehauls or of a residence as well, so it's quite a bit, everything, all the trades, so under one roof. We handle a lot of that work ourselves, and then when the project gets too large for it to be economically feasible, we will bring in our subcontractors, which helps saves the homeowner money. Right. When we're doing the general contracting work, obviously we're bringing in all of our trades and our subcontractors, which are all local people. We try to work with everybody that's within Washington County, part of Allegheny County, to support those local business folks. Right. It's some of them are 2-person shops, and some have 20 to 30 employees. So just depending on what we need.
Awesome. Now, because we want to showcase small business owners, and when you're able to really go full tilt. If people are looking to support small business, if people need that residential job, the kitchen, the bathroom, the makeover in the house, or they might want to contact you about commercial work, how would they get a hold of you and learn about Yesco so that they could secure your services or meet you and perhaps get a quote on the work that you do?
Absolutely. We do have a Facebook page. We also have a website, which is www.yescocontracting.com. YESCO, YESCOcontracting.com. And also the office phone number, which is 412-997-9146. You can give us a call. We can definitely set up a time. You can actually give us an idea of what your project might be via the website. And then we can give you a call back and talk about it and set something up. Okay. We do want to make sure that, that people know that we are a relationship building company.
Right.
We're not just that standard contract. We're not coming in to grab a check, slam out some work and run out the door. Our motto in the company is that is actually on our cards. It says building relationships through quality work. We want to be the people that you call back or the people that you do refer. So even though we have a larger company for small business, we still have that hometown feeling. That's, right. We want to be friends with the people that we work with.
Yeah. And you're a good man. I've known Jim for a long time. My son played sports, went to school with Michael. Yep. And yeah, I mean, you're the right stuff, man. So I want to, before we close this, I'd like you to talk again about how people can reach you. But during the midst of this, you were also kind of motivated to start a group.
Yes.
And I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to hear more about what you're seeing, what you're facing, what it feels like to navigate these waters in really what is an unprecedented time, at least in my lifetime. But talk to me about the group that you started and why, the purposes that you want to serve there, and then a shout out to how people can learn about that particular coalition, please.
Okay, sure. We like a lot of small businesses in Washington County, and as I was telling Tom when we were upstairs talking, Washington County has thousands of small businesses, and that's a sole proprietorship, whether it's a guy that runs an excavator to somebody that has their own beauty salon, and they hire 3 people, and we've got a lot of these nice small mom and pop shops all over the county. We're not a huge conglomerate of corporations here. I mean, we save that for Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. But what happened was, from a construction standpoint, we're in February, March. We're just getting things ramped up. Every construction business is just getting things ready to go. As we're making our way into the summer months, you could definitely tell the highway construction was running, and we were doing our part to get our jobs lined up for the summertime. People are hiring people. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to bring on new blood, and spur on that local economy. And then the virus comes along, and we all just with our families, we're very concerned, make sure your family's safe and all those things. And then came the mandated closure mm-hmm. for the businesses. Now, originally they had shut down some certain businesses, and they obviously wanted to, when they started with, I think it was the hairstylists or barber shops and those kind of things that they were closing down. And then they went on, and the list went on and on and on. And I didn't even realize that construction was shut down until my wife's son, Denny, called. And he said, we're not working Monday. He wasn't working at his company. And I said, why? I said, you supply gas and oil. Your company supplies construction and all these other types of specialty things. And he said, well, because we're no longer essential. And he goes, and you're on the list too. And I went, what? And so then we went online to find out that Governor Wolf had made this long list of who's allowed to work and who's not allowed to work. Much to the surprise of pretty much everybody that was on that list. I think some people might say I could understand that, but I think the majority of us were just in shock and awe.
Right.
Shock and awe was what it was, because we didn't even know what that meant at the time.
I see why you didn't know.
Yeah, and so then what happened was that my first response was, how do we stay in business? The government has shut us down. right? And how do we pay the bills? How do we keep the equipment? What do we do with employees? What do we do with the projects that I'm in the middle of?
Right.
You know, and what are we supposed to do, and how are we supposed to make that happen? And there were no answers. There was just a list. And I guess frustrating also for those of us in the trades, this list almost seemed arbitrary. Because we weren't allowed to work, even if we were doing outside work or unoccupied home work, but yet nothing against the industry, but landscaping and yard work, companies were allowed to continue with no stoppage at all.
That's right.
And we just can't, as a group, I don't know. I want to say,
how do you reconcile?
Yeah, how do you reconcile? I mean, honestly, it's crazy. As we started to look at it, and then they were just talking about that we cannot work, period. So we looked to the state at this point because they were the ones that put the foot down. And we're not getting any answers. We don't. The news is swaying one way or the other. That's all they're really talking about are the numbers of how many people have the virus, how many people are dying of the virus, what county, and all that. It's more of a body count than it is by the way, the country is coming to a screeching halt. The state of Pennsylvania is coming to a screeching halt, and we're not really sure what that means. Okay, so I became very frustrated as an individual and a business owner, right, and a family man as to the fact that the government is telling me I cannot do what I need to do to make a living, right, to feed my family, to keep my house, to keep all these things that I consider to be what those inalienable rights that we're supposed to have.
Rather essential too,
yes,
right?
Yes, oddly enough, that it's that's what we're supposed to have, and this is what we've always worked for.
Right.
And I don't care what your job is, you have a job to support a family, right. And some people have very intense jobs. Some people have jobs that aren't as intense, but everyone I believe has the right to earn a living.
I agree with you.
And for the government to come in and say, you're not allowed to earn a living. And we say, okay, we understand that the public health, this is a crisis. And this was the first, I like to call it knee-jerk response, which is we have to get people to stop being close to people. Got it. So where's the plan? Okay. Every emergency group that I've ever been involved with, emergency planning, emergency response teams, whether it's the Red Cross or whatever, they have plans in place for different emergencies. Okay. And there's just no way that I can be told and to believe it that no one has ever thought, oh, what about a pandemic? Okay. And I don't care if it was man-made or natural or how it got here. Right. The United States government has no plan for a pandemic. And it's like, this makes no sense to me. But we can come up, my own personal opinion is we can come up with a great plan to help other countries when they're in trouble. Right. But when we get into it ourselves, well, now we're backpedaling and throwing stones. So my question was, as a business owner and a person, was, okay, where's my plan? How do we go forward from here? What are we doing? The next day, I believe it was, after all this kind of happened, that same week in March, St. Patrick's Day week, I think we were legally forced to shut down by that Saturday night. And somewhere one of those days, the governor comes on television and, with the news report saying that they do have a financial assistance plan, that the state has put together a financial assistance plan, and our Governor Wolf has, however they wanted to put it. And you go to the governor's website, and there's a link there. And then, so we've, as individuals,
woo-hoo, right?
There we go.
There's your life raft.
Yes, we're going to the governor's website, and we want to find out. They're going to tell us what we can do, what's available, what kind of assistance can we get, and these kind of things. And I went to that website the very next day, and there was a link on that website to the SBA to file for a standard SBA loan.
That was the extent of their preparation at that time. Yeah. A link to the SBA,
yes,
so that you could get a standard loan in Correct. The midst of a state and perhaps national shutdown.
Correct.
in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yes.
Say
yes.
on.
And again, it was one of those things where it's like, well, first of all, that's a link. It's not we have a link for you to talk to the federal government. This was touted that this was the state's plan for you to be able to stay in business. And at the time, the SBA, of course, they're scrambling to come up with a program. You had the president, you had Congress. I don't care which way people vote, but everybody was scrambling to come up with a plan. While it was a crisis-driven decision, then it was after the decision, I don't think there was quite enough time spent pontificating on how we're going to resolve this. We don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know what's going to happen. And of course, the focus needs to be on the healthcare scenario. But on the other side of that is, what about those of us that are healthy? That's all we need to do is work. We need to keep America moving forward. So the SBA did, after a few days, be able to come up with a more accelerated plan than filling out all the paperwork that you would normally do for an SBA loan. But in the meantime...
And by the way, that was the EIDL and the PPP?
Those came later.
Okay.
Those came later. Originally, it was just filing for an SBA loan. And then, of course, it's like, wait a minute. Now the government has told me that they're shutting me down, but I have to take out a loan and pay the government interest to be able to hopefully stay in business.
Pretty interesting perspective.
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of a take. And it's like, but when you're in survival mode, right? If I have to take out a 7% loan to stay afloat for the next 6 months, that's really what I have to do.
That's what you have to do.
And so we were willing to do that. So we went through, that process, and every day just kind of looking for a little more guidance as to what's happening and so on. But also in the same light was the frustration of who's staying open, who's not, who gets a waiver, because then I think the first response to the individual outcries for the businesses were, well, you can apply for a waiver. And if you're considered to be an essential business, then you're allowed to keep doing business. Right. Well, once that started, everybody was pretty happy and we could file for a waiver. But I know personally of companies in Washington County that do the same work, and this guy got a waiver and that guy didn't. But we're doing the same kind of work. And it seemed like an arbitrary kind of selection process.
That's correct.
And we had to input.
Which, by the way, is being investigated right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's some people drilling down on that, wanting to know that process of them picking winners or losers. And frankly, that's what was done.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. That's what it felt like. Yeah. And again, like I said, with a lot of the small business people that I've been communicating with, that's exactly what it felt like. How is it that this electrician's allowed to go and work on a similar project in an unoccupied home, right? And I'm trying to do the same thing over here on a commercial job, and you're telling me no.
Well, and along those lines, and I know we're going to get into some other aspects of, public perception, but a couple of things I wanted to interject that you brought up that are very, very valid points. Number one, about 2 weeks ago, we drilled down on in the Pennsylvania Constitution, there is a Declaration of Rights, okay? And the first Declaration of Rights, what is enumerated in there is that we have an inalienable right to life and liberty, but it doesn't stop there. And it goes on to say to acquire, possess, and protect personal property, and then pursue happiness. Okay, so what you're talking about is exactly that it is an inalienable right to acquire, possess, and protect property, which your home is, which your truck is, which your property in the home, your small business is property. I mean, that's no joke. And most people, Jim, don't know the guts and the faith and the perseverance that it takes to really go out and start your own business. I mean, the average Joe doesn't want any part of that. Right. And a lot of people criticizing the self-employed or small business owner who simply want to go back to work. Right. A lot of those individuals really don't have the GUTZ to do what you did to start the business to begin with. So it's quite easy for people to be the armchair quarterback and go, why does old Jim really want to go back to work anyway when he could just stay home
Yeah.
be behind his mask. But you bring up that interesting point. But go ahead. I didn't want to.
No, that's okay, because even along that same line was that when all this was going on, there's a Facebook group called What's Going On in Washington County.
Right.
And so, I kind of got involved in that because I belong to the group, and you kind of look at it from time to time. But I started seeing all these businesses starting to talk about wanting to stay open, and how come we can't, and what are we doing, and how can we fix that. But then on the same thing, this group there's a few thousand people, I think, in this group. Then you had a lot of the people coming on board on the comments about, how selfish are you? Because you want to go out and get people sick so that you can make $1. Like it was that your desire to earn a living, right, is a selfish thought process.
I see that, and I've been attacked of the same thing.
Yeah,
say on.
Yeah, and again, it was one of those things where it's like, no, it's nowhere did I ever see anyone say, right, I want to go out, I'm going to work, I don't care what you say, I don't care about public health. Every small business that was involved there probably alluded to at one point or another, right, that the public health and safety is obviously primary. Absolutely primary. Now, we need to be able to have some kind of a happy medium where there's a safe way for us to conduct our business, and we can conduct our business.
Right.
Without having, without causing a spike or a resurgence of this flu virus. But we just had to, then it became the political battle. It's the Democrats are saying it's all the Republicans' fault because I don't know, whatever it was. Yeah. And the Republicans are saying the Democrats aren't helping the little guy out because they want to get money for this or whatever. And it's a big political debate in Washington on both sides of the aisle. But in the meantime, as a small business owner, it's all we want to do is figure out how we're going to pay our bills and keep our house.
Thank you.
I'm not, and so I decided with that group, and I knew quite a few of these contractors, and I've used a lot of them in that were making these comments. And so I started a separate page called the Washington County Small Business Coalition. I just did that, and in the little preamble of that page, it says this is not a political page. We're not here to debate the Republicans or the Democrats or whatever.
Joe Biden versus Donald Trump.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, at this point, who cares?
Yes, we are here to become a network to actually be able to speak our mind, to be able to help each other. To be able to find out what each other, what each person's doing. And we had a lot of communication, and there were up to a couple of hundred people now that belong to this group, and we're adding a couple more every day.
And where can they find that group?
On Facebook. It's a Facebook group, and it's called Washington County Small Business Coalition.
Right on.
And it's all you do is you go on there, you click. You don't have to answer questions to get, It's just the only thing is that I approve people because, like any Facebook group, you get all these outside, I don't know what it is, hackers or whatever. Right. Somebody wants to get in there and sell
Trolls,
something. Yes,
riffraff,
absolutely.
Beats,
so I kind of, if you're not a Washington County business, we just, but we do have individuals that are in there as well because they've got, they've got a little skin in the game.
Sure.
So we got that group started, and then it was so that we could actually get real information. Okay, what are we allowed to apply for now? What are the rules? What are the regulations? And we know that we had people get on there because everybody kind of became a little watchdog as well. Today's the day, 3:00, get your paperwork in, to be able to file for the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan, or the EIDL, or however those things worked.
By the way, those were very helpful. You attended an online webinar or something, correct?
Yes.
And you put some very helpful step-by-step information out there that, by the way, without your permission, I hope you don't mind, but I copied and pasted it and sent it out to a network of 450 independent contractors that I knew all over the country.
Right. Well, the EIDL was the Economic Impact Disaster Loans Program. That was the SBA's response to being able to help the small business. And what it is that it is a loan process, but it's very short. It's like 8 pages or something, but it's more just check the box. You're not going back and producing 3 years of financials and forecasts and everything else. You are essentially saying, I'm a small business. This is how much business I do. Here's my employer ID number. And you're answering so many basic questions. And then they're talking about, you really just have to show that this has an economic impact on your business. It wasn't difficult to do. I didn't have to get my accountant or my bookkeeper involved. It takes 15, 20 minutes. And I felt that that was important for people to feel that, because originally we had a link to the SBA website to fill out a 25-page document that you've got to back up with everything to be able to hopefully get a loan. Small business people do not necessarily always have the best credit rating because they have sunk their life savings into the business.
I understand.
And when you have a slowdown period, of course, we're all coming just off of winter, which in the construction trades is not your best time to do work. So, your credit rating, you might have your credit cards run up and you might have less money in the bank. When you need the help, they're looking at this and going, well, we can't give you a loan. Right. You're high risk.
Yeah. I think it was Mark Twain who once said, by the way, that banks and lending institutions are, I think he described them as institutions who will lend people money who can prove they actually don't need it.
Absolutely. Trust me, all the years I've been in business, that is so true. That's one of the things I said. As soon as we really have some money in the bank, when they come to me, I just want to tell them no.
Yeah, I don't need you.
No.
Yeah, thanks.
No,
that's my goal. I must tell you.
Yes, absolutely. I want to be able to just tell the bank when they finally say, "Yeah, you know what? Things are looking up for you guys. We'd like to open you up a line of credit." I just want to say no.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot, but no. But so it's, so we did communicate back and forth a lot on this, and that EIDL loan was so easy. And there was one of the benefits of that was the $10,000 grant advance. Sorry. Yeah. It's a simple box. You fill out the form, you click a box. It says if you want a $10,000 advance against the loan, that $10,000 advance becomes a grant. So you're not paying it back.
Even if the loan wasn't approved, you were getting the $10,000.
If you were denied the loan, if you were approved for the loan and kept it, or if you were approved for the loan and said no, you still got to keep that grant money. That was their lifeline, and I do appreciate the SBA for putting that out there. That was their lifeline to all of us, and suddenly, this group was filled with some hope. Yeah. Oh, thank God we filled this thing out. We clicked this box. If we can get a $10,000 check, fantastic. That'll definitely help to keep things rolling, and it doesn't pay a lot, and it sure doesn't take care of those 50 employee businesses, but it does help. Yeah. So there was a glimmer of hope in all of this.
And that was to be an advance of $10,000 per business, right?
Correct.
Didn't that change?
Yes, it did.
Are you going there?
Yes, it did.
Very good.
And of course, so what happened was that now when the EIDL came out, I filed, my paperwork was in, I think, within 2 hours of when it went live. I can't remember. I got an email from the SBA because I had put in some initial paperwork feelers, and I said that I got to hop on this because you got to be first in line.
Yes,
we
sir.
all know. And
there was only $539 billion or something allocated. Right?
Yeah, that's And so I jumped on there and I put this paperwork in, and then you sit and wait. Because you can't, the systems are overloaded, the networks aren't handling it. There's crashes going on all over the place. So you go on there and they have no one for you to call or chat with or anything else. It's kind of like, it's like throwing your worm in the middle of the lake and spending the rest of the week just hoping something happens.
Yeah. An email, anything at all. An autoresponder. Hey, right. I got your application. Yes. We're not thinking of doing anything with it at this moment, but we know you're alive.
Yes, right. You exist as a number in our system. It's like that would make you feel good. So we had that out there, but then I started seeing on our business group, our small business group, people were saying, well, I got a check from the SBA, a direct deposit. I got a direct deposit from the SBA, but it was like for $1,000.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
And then the person said, I'm a one-person business, so maybe they're not giving us all this money. Well, then suddenly these letters showed up that other small business people were posting online saying that, and I think you might have put one on there, which was in an effort to make sure everyone gets
a little something,
a little slice of the pie here. To make sure everyone gets a little slice of the pie, the grant is going to give you $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000.
I remember seeing that.
And it was like, well, okay, So now you've got the person who was hoping for $10,000 to keep their sole proprietorship open, because maybe 10,000 would have done it.
Yeah.
Well, you're only about 9,000 short.
Yes.
Now they're back to scrambling. They're back to page one. They're back to, what are we doing? You know, so then it's like, you know, we've taken the roller coaster up to the top of the hill and we're feeling good up at the top, and then it drops. The bottom comes right out.
Yeah.
And so now you've got people that are, you know, and back onto the emotional roller coaster of how am I going to survive this process? So with that, now I will also like to say with our group, and this is actually a very positive thing, we did make connection with some of our political leaders for our area, which is nice. I did a lot of research. I sent a slightly scathing letter to more of a diatribe than a letter to the governor, to our state representatives, to our local county commissioners, to my township supervisors. I put it all the same letter all the way down the line and sent it to Channel 11 News. And I said, listen, this is just not right. This is not the way this is supposed to work. You know, we understand there's a crisis and the public health is first, but what are we doing? What is the public health going to be when suddenly everyone's out of work? And now we've got foreclosures. Now we have a ripple up effect that could just destroy what's left of the finances of the government. You know, so when our taxes go up to pay for all of this, what do we have? We have no business. Right. We have no income. We have no money. Take the house. I mean, okay, you know, but how's it all going to shake out? You know, and again, this is long-term thinking. This isn't just, you know, this month. This is like, how am I getting through the year and what are we doing and so on. But getting back to that, State Representative Tim O'Neill joined our group. I did contact him, and he did join our group, and he and I have had some communication on the side, and he was very forthcoming with letters that he wrote to the governor about getting people back to work. And I think that was probably the greatest thing that came out of our group, was we now had a voice within the state that they know, here we are, right? This small little band of merry men and women, and but here we are, and we're telling you we can't live with this process.
That's right.
It will not work, and we need your help to make sure that the state knows that this is not going to be a good thing. You know, and we've had some comments on, you know, and it's like, this is headed down an ugly road. You know, we don't know what that's going to mean. And so that just really became an issue. But Representative Tim O'Neill was very responsive. And again, like I said, I think he did a great job of really pushing very quickly, you know, to take our story to the state. I think he did get some response per se. I think that it definitely, you know, we've got our one representative. And then if you've got small groups like our group and they're talking to their representative and you know, and I definitely made sure to post on there, here's how to get a hold of everyone. You know, and it's all nice because it's all online emails, and you can get on there and type your feelings, and you can let them know, you know, come November or next November, how you feel. That's so,
right. And from the time this hit, which my recollection is like, I don't know, March 13th was Friday, and that was the last time the Marcus Tyler band played, and we were calling that the Corona party or whatever. But I think the next day, the proverbial shit hit the fan, if I can be straight up. So from March 14th to about now, how many weeks along are you in this roller coaster merry-go-round?
7 weeks or so, coming up almost on, you know, we're heading there. It's 6-7 weeks right now.
But I mean, by the time you're at this point with the process of getting financing, you know, that you're a couple 3 weeks into this thing.
Oh yeah, like I said, and of course, like a lot of the people in our small business group, you know, because people were communicating, letting people know. I said, you know, did you have a problem filling out a form? Let the group know so we know what we have to look for. You know, people were saying, don't even start filling out the form unless you have A, B, and C ready to go. Right. So you're not wasting your time, and it was very supportive. But I think you actually received the same letter that I did, from our local bank. And it said, hey, we need another piece of information, because it goes to the bank underwriting team for PPP. It goes to the bank underwriting team before it goes to the SBA. And it said, we need a little more information. That's it. It asked for one very simple thing for us, which I was shocked. I just, was waiting for the list to come back. So it was easy. So we get on there, we print all this stuff out, and we resubmit that to be attached with our form. And the next day on the news, they said, everyone's out of money. There's no more money. And it was like, well, wasn't that odd?
Yeah.
Wasn't that odd that suddenly now that, and it wasn't the bank's issue, it's the federal government said, well, we've run out of money. And you can understand, I'm looking at this from a Washington County perspective and to the state of Pennsylvania perspective. And we're really talking about there's 50 states that are really involved. Yeah. It's not just that Washington, D.C. is going, hey, Pennsylvania, here's your personal chunk, it says, so we're really dealing with this on a national basis. And you've got millions of people trying to get a hold of something for a life-sustaining lifeline or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, we put in the paperwork. We did all of those things. And then shortly after that happened, after they ran out of money, that the news started to come up with who got the money. And I think that was, to a small business person, was a slap in the face and a kick down lower.
Yeah.
To find out that with an interview that I did with Channel 11 News, I found out during that interview that in Washington County, 6 businesses received money. The entire Washington County, 6 businesses received money. 5 at $100,000. I think one was at $86,000.
For what was that, a total of about what?
$586,000 is what went to Washington.
Total. Okay.
Went to Washington County, and it was like, I don't get it. How does this happen? Again, there's no filter in place, to make sure that everyone's getting a little bit of the pie. And
then it was a little later, by the way, that we found out what Harvard and Ruth's Chris.
Yes. We found out that these, publicly traded, well-funded companies had applied, and which of course instantly caused an upheaval. But then the return response to that was, well, it's not that bad because, legally they were allowed to apply because the SBA, in their infinite wisdom, the loophole says as long as you have less than 500 employees per location. That's the loophole.
Got it.
And it's like, and you're doing under so many million a year. But it was like, okay, so how many businesses have over 500 people per location? If you're not a car manufacturer, if you're not, you think about the biggest business we have in Pittsburgh. Okay, one single location. Do you really think they have 500 people running around in that office? No. But overall, they've got 600,000 people working for them or whatever it might be. So it was that was ludicrous. It was just, and of course, the public outcry, really, I think, for their effort to save face is where you started seeing that money going back. Yeah. And had it not become a public outcry, I'm not sure that money ever would have been returned. I believe that, from what I understand, that the Ruth Chris money, and that was PPP, that was the Payroll Protection Program. Okay. That's a grant. That would have been...
Yeah, if they're using it on employees or rent,
yep.
Right?
Oh, it could be rent, utilities. There's all sorts of things that you could... That is like a massive capital infusion for a company. And you think if you've got $20, $30 million, then that's on the bottom line, for a company. Okay, you had a bad month. All right. Well, what's a bad month? 2 million. Okay. So what are you going to do with the other 18? And again, I don't think my feeling on that is if shame on you, you got caught. Okay. If it had not become a public outcry, would they have just, in the goodness of their heart said, well, here's that money back because we don't need it. And again, and of course, then you get both sides of the political battle, right? You have to do what's right, and no, you should keep your money or whatever. It's some crazy stuff. But knowing that those people are putting money back in, I really do believe it's only because of that. Now we've got the second round. So they're talking about the second round of funding. Great. So here's some more money. And it took Congress way too long to come up with the agreement for that. And I don't know, the Republicans had to concede so much stuff and the Democrats had to concede, and, to be able to say, here's more money. Then we come down to, okay, their next step is they say that 60 billion is earmarked for small banks, so that they want to make sure that that money gets down to the small business. Okay, so the odd part in all of that is, as I found out, now my bank, which I think is also your bank, isn't on that small bank list.
I see.
We're considered a big bank.
Okay.
So now they're a big bank, so we're not earmarked again. So we're kind of like that, like typical when it comes to, taxes and whatever, we're not, college education funding, right? We can't get financial aid, and we sure can't afford to put our kids through college, right? We just have to figure out how to pay for the whole thing.
Right.
And because we're in the middle, and I think we're in the middle again when it comes to this next round of funding. So we don't know what's going to happen, and again, with us being able to go back to work here, starting up within the next week, brings on a whole nother series of questions and whatnot, how we're going to accomplish that. What does it mean? What do the supply chains look like? You've got the work pool. I know a lot of, I was looking at a job in Harrisburg, and a lot of the subcontractors that were set up out there are now having to review whether or not they can even go back to work, because you now have hourly employees that are making unemployment for 6 months, plus $600 a week for 8 weeks. So at least for 2 months, why would they go back to work? Because they're making more money at home.
That's right.
But the small business owner, as we are, we don't have unemployment. We don't get unemployment. We're not even allowed to file and so on. Well, then the state also came up with, and it's also part of the federal plan, which is the PUA, unemployment. I don't know. I can't even think of what it stands for now. There's so many acronyms out there. So that the self-employed, sole proprietor, small business, even if you're a one-man shop, if you're a 1099 right. employee, a gig worker, you are allowed to apply for unemployment. So, which is great. The first day, the system crashed. Just crashed. The unemployment system, I think it was almost 2 days before it came back up, before you could even get on there to start filling out the form.
Kind of reminds me, by the way, when they rolled out the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, right?
Yes.
Spent billions of dollars on this site, talked about it from 2010 to 2014, and when open enrollment happened, it crashed.
Yep.
Days, nobody could log on.
We want it to be the most successful thing ever.
Ever, right?
But we're not ready for it to be successful.
Yeah. So here we are, unemployment, right? Yes. And it is it is flatline.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that same thing where it's the here is your lifeline.
Yeah.
As a self-employed individual, here's your lifeline to at least keep your home and do this, from the state.
Right.
The same thing I was looking for on Governor Wolf's website that first day.
Right. Where you found the link.
Yes. And it's, right. And it's, but here it is now. We've got this and it's great. And you go on there and they've got like 2-3 pages of little click the box, have you done this? Did you do that? Did this, and that? And they're asking for, what did you do for the last 2 years? It says, did you work outside the state of Pennsylvania within the last 2 years? Well, yes, my wife worked in West Virginia over a year ago. Mm-hmm. What does that have to do with the fact that we have no money today?
Right.
And for myself, it said, have you worked for a state agency or whatever, a school district, a local agency or whatever within the last 2 years? Well, yes, I did work also for a school district over a year ago. Okay, so that's when I was working up at Plum School District. Wonderful. What does that have to do with the fact that we have our business and it is growing and we are entering the busiest part of the year for us to really make the money, just like retailers catch it at Christmas, Thanksgiving to Christmas. We construction people catch it from
florists, Mother's Day.
Absolutely. Spring to fall, it's time for us to really, to get out there and make a buck. And you want to know that my wife worked in West Virginia 2 years ago. And so as soon as you click that box, it says, well, you're not eligible.
Wow.
You're not eligible for unemployment, which is a standard. That's actually a standard question when you file for regular unemployment.
From an underwriting standpoint, I don't, why is that a kick out question?
I have no idea. Because I think honestly, because that's a standard question on the regular unemployment. Because the state of Pennsylvania, what happens is they want to split it per se. So let's say that you did work in West Virginia for a year and you worked for this new employer for a year. You're just a regular Joe, not a self-employed person. Now it's like, well, you're going to go back. They want to look at your pay scale for the last couple of years. So Pennsylvania says, we'll pay you half, but we're going to go back and West Virginia is going to pay the other half. I see. You have to file in both places or whatever it might be. In other words, if you just left a job in West Virginia, you live in Washington, like a lot of people do, you can't file for Pennsylvania unemployment. Because you worked in West Virginia. They've got the money. So it all makes sense. But I think that's where that question comes from.
It didn't belong on the application.
It's irrelevant for what's happening.
I see.
And the whole thing also about the question about working for a state agency or whatever and these kind of things. What does that have to do with the fact that I'm self-employed? And some of the people in our group, they started their business 2 months ago. Now they're unemployed. They need this unemployment package, but you have to go back. Some people got a message, in error, stating that, no, you need to go and file for regular unemployment. Okay, so they followed, the website said go do it. So they filed for regular unemployment, got their PIN number, got their whatever, so on. And this was a week later, another form comes out from the state, which we posted on our site, on our group, which says, if you got that message, that was a mistake, don't do it. Now it's okay, but I did do it. So how do you undo it? Wow. We went through the process. My wife and I both went through the process of okay, now that's great. They got this little, because you can't call anybody because, everybody's staying home. But there's a little chat line. So we get on the little chat box. And so my wife's chatting with this person, explaining the situation of how this works. And the response was, well, we can't help you with that. Okay, then what's the chat thing for? We couldn't get past. In other words, you have to answer these questions to qualify to fill out the form to be able to send it in.
That chat thing was probably AI. I doubt that was even. It probably, because you can buy that stuff and throw it on your website.
Absolutely.
To handle some basic,
right.
Basic
questions. So then what happens? They say, well, you have to send in an email with your information. Okay. Well, the email response time is like 5 to 8 days to get an email back. So you send in an email, they review whatever this is, and they just send you back whatever the canned answer is, which is, for my wife, it was, you have to file in West Virginia. West Virginia has nothing to do with the fact that we're self-employed and out of work in Pennsylvania. So here we are back at the same thing. We're back to ground level one, which is there's a program, but there's not a program.
That's right.
Now, if we'd have been in business for 5 solid years with all of our payroll, accounting, this and that and everything else, then okay. But what about the people that did just start up recently and the people that we incorporated last year, which changes all of our information? So it just, again, the state's falling short on being able to keep these small businesses alive. Very frustrating.
By the way, I heard yesterday on KDKA, Marty Griffin in the morning, he's been really advocating. I think he was talking with the state's auditor general, but he was saying that some individuals have recorded as many as 900 calls to the unemployment bureau or whatever, which, by the way, is closing, as I understand it, every day at 4:30, right?
Oh, well, of course, yeah.
They haven't extended their hours.
No.
Global pandemic, right?
Yep.
At 4:30, still pulling the holiday shifts for Easter. Okay?
Absolutely.
This is your state at work. And again, please understand, I'm not ripping on the state any more than I feel that I should.
Right.
But you're talking about people. Now, you're 7 weeks into this issue. Every day, probably finding it difficult to sleep, probably finding it difficult to, just take care of some of the normal functions in life, wondering how is this going to turn out, and being completely jerked around by the system, whether it's I can't find anybody to speak to, 7 or 8 days, which I say to our listening audience, when we do go to vote, or the next time you think that government is a panacea. And by the way, government's done a very good job to get people to believe in government. I don't know if you've noticed that
Yes,
or not, but I mean, there's some
absolutely.
great salespeople, where government's the answer, baby. I mean,
Yep.
and the fact is, right now, I stand back and I'm looking at the inefficiencies. I'm looking at from the beginning of this pandemic, whether it was the states, the Surgeon General, masks are, they don't work. Now it's got to wear a mask.
Yes, right.
Masks, no masks, 2,200,000, 60,000, when we cast our vote, I think that it is important that people remember at the end of the day, it's up to you. One of the things I'm learning, it is up to the individual to make it or break it in this life. And right now, the small business owner, the mom and pop shop, the self-employed person, they are being marginalized. They are being overlooked. And many of them, I am concerned that many of them are just not going to make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a life changer. This is like you said, it's quite the big deal. And, when we're looking, quite the big deal. When we're looking at like you said, you're talking about being the whole thing about government. And you and I talked a little bit before also is, as Americans, and I was born in the '60s. Just dating myself a lot, but early.
Jim, I'm right there with you.
I know, yeah, early '60s, and but it was one of those things where we watched the transition in the late '60s and the early '70s, and that's when the young people, whether you wanted to call them hippies or beatniks or whatever, really started to revolt against the American culture of 2 martini lunch, 9 to 5, white shirt, black tie. Believe in your government no matter what they say. We had people over in Vietnam, and we weren't getting answers as to why they were in Vietnam.
That's right.
And it's like, why are we losing American citizens?
I remember that.
Why are we losing American citizens for a war that doesn't involve us?
That's right.
And of course, then you're coming off the Cold War portion of it. We have to stop the spread of communism. Okay. Well, and to this day, I still don't really believe that South Vietnam, right, would have really led to the downfall of the United States.
Nor do I.
Okay. I can't imagine
But they always need a boogeyman, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was one of those things where we weren't even fighting the Russians, right? We were just fighting the North Vietnamese. And again, it was just that's when it was. And I remember in high school, one of my favorite shirts said "Question Authority."
Yes, I remember that, gang.
I wore that shirt to school as often as I could.
Yes, sir.
Much to my father's dismay, because my dad worked in the city, and he was. But my dad was, kind of flexible in his thinking. But still, teachers didn't like it. You don't question authority. Right. Well, they did back then. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of now.
Yeah. Oddly enough, it's interesting that a lot of those people, this is my observation, a lot of those people that I remember wearing the beads and the hippie hair, and kind of, screw the man, It's interesting that many of them today have become dyed-in-the-wool statists. I don't know what happened, but I'm telling you from firsthand observation, a lot of them have drunk the Kool-Aid.
Yes, yeah.
And are big time statists.
We are lulled. We have been lulled after all of these things that took place. We've been lulled and back into that slumber, that deep sleep of the government will take care of us. We are Americans. We live in America, the greatest country on the planet. And even when I get frustrated with the government for whatever reason, you look at other places you could live, and with our shortfalls and whatever, America is still a really great place to live. I love it
here. I do.
And again, but the government will take care of us. They're going to defend us. They're going to protect us. Now we've kind of made that switch over to now they're telling us what to do, when we can do it, what we have to wear,
who's essential, and who's not essential.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, I don't know how you feel about that, but there's something that grates against me about a group of people deciding essential or non-essential.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion, Jim, that we're all essential.
Right.
I think that people's basic needs are essential. Their loved ones, their children, their grandchildren. I take issue with that.
Oh, so do I.
I really take issue with it. And I think this picking winners and losers, like, when I think of some of what you probably do when you fix a kitchen in a non-commercial environment, Lowe's They can be open and sell the cupboards
Correct.
for the kitchen, the sink, but Joe, the contractor in the field, cannot install it, even if that house is vacant.
Yep.
Explain that to me.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish I could.
And Marty Griffin, like I said yesterday, he was going back to the unemployment, but he said things were so bad, they actually took a live call from a woman on the air who had been reduced to, and she wasn't self-employed, but just on this unemployment compensation deal, she was reduced to $9 and was literally fretting of her life. And they actually raised some money, and I think Marty drove $300 in cash by her house, personally delivered it. But he is leading a clarion call, calling out these people, because apparently the computer system has been outdated for forever.
Right.
Okay. You would think that in the midst of a global pandemic, the state, which seems to be, they've got some deep coffers, correct?
Right.
You would think that they would be able to hire additional help. That's what a private business would do.
Right.
If I saw a rush come on my company in our particular field of expertise, and like, for example, open enrollment. We're in the healthcare and financial services business. What do we do when we see that wave of people coming?
Yep.
We drill down, we hire up, we ramp up, we train, we prepare for it.
Correct.
Now, granted, perhaps COVID-19 or coronavirus blindsided people. I think it was bigger than people expected. But this is a long time in the game to still not have your shit together.
Correct.
You know what? And I think it's unconscionable that the state of Pennsylvania right now, that we have so many people struggling to make it, and the self-employed, the mom and pop shop, the business with 10 or fewer employees, the business with 50. These people are incredibly essential to the fabric of our community. And if they don't make it, there's going to be a huge void left.
Absolutely.
And people will realize, in my opinion, then, but it would be quite sad.
Right. Well, like I said, I said it's almost like that ripple up effect. That things are going to, if the bottom falls out, you have no foundation on which to stand. We've seen lots of, in the history, of the United States in the 50 some odd years I've been alive, we've seen a lot of things come and go. And we've read a lot of books, and there's been a lot of movies made, and it's, whether we've entered into an Orwellian state, you're looking at the caste system. I said, nobody ever would have thought that the Hunger Games was a prelude to the COVID-19 virus, where they're going to tell you whether you're essential or not. You're here or you're there. They're going to tell you that, I can't even think of the name of the movie, but the one says, okay, you're a farmer and you're a security person, and we're going to cast you into what you're going to be. And it's like, wait, that just doesn't make sense as to how we've come so far in such a short period of time to give up our freedoms, to allow them to be taken from us. Yeah. I don't even know that a lot of people realize that they've been taken.
That's greatly concerning to me.
I really do.
Yeah, I really said it well. And now I'm beginning to wonder if they're rights, or are they merely permissions? Because if the government can suspend... I had an attorney friend of mine when I was on this rant about the declarations that are clearly enumerated in the Pennsylvania Constitution. He said, well, Tom, your rights have been temporarily abridged.
Yeah.
An attorney.
Yeah, by who?
And now listen, here's how I think, right? I have some good attorneys that I work with, and I actually took that statement. I took issue with the statement, but I thought, well, I sent the Constitution or the Declaration of Rights to another local Washington attorney here, an older gentleman. He's salty. He knows which way the parade's going. He said, Tom, I see no I see no virus clause or anything, but the gentleman was talking about precedent and case law, the one attorney that, oh no, I understand how clear, Tom, it says inalienable, and I understand it's, life and liberty and to acquire, protect, and possess. He goes, but case law and precedent says that in times like these that can go away. So my question is, are they permissions? I mean, if they can take them away, then restore them. Yes. Then clearly this is a lever that I feel like we need to get. They're preparing us for the new norm. Is the new norm abridgment of rights when it's convenient?
Right. And I agree with you there completely.
It's very interesting.
Yes, because, you said rights are rights. Permissions can come and go. I mean, we all grew up and our parents gave us permission and then they didn't give you permission. But now to have the government doing that, and you go back and, like you said, the Constitution of the state of Pennsylvania, the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you.
You just take a look at some of the basic things. It's supposed to be we the people.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be them, the Congress, or right. them, the House of Representatives. It's supposed to be we the people, and we the people have turned over that you're going to make the best decisions for us.
Wow.
We've made our Congress people lifetimers, because we remember their name, and we figure, well, they've always done a good job for us, and we just keep checking the same box.
We even have our favorites now. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
Oh, I like him or I like her. And it's like, you don't even, come on. You don't even know them, man.
No.
And I got to bring this to a close just from a time standpoint, but you're on a topic, because one of the things that I think we're both seeing, and I think our listening audience is seeing this too, is this narrative, the COVID narrative, right, is being politically weaponized. I'm already seeing very clever ads discrediting Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen many yet against Biden, but I'm sure
there are some out there, yes.
And you and I, before the show, we were talking about this business of the president of the United States, which frankly, as you and I said upstairs, the president is a transient being.
Correct.
And he or she does not run this country. He's not the king.
Right.
The Congress runs this country.
Yes.
And one of the challenges that I think we agree on is this issue of term limits. We have people in Congress that have turned public service into a super career opportunity.
Absolutely.
They go in, they're making a couple $100,000 a year with sweetheart benefits and a lifetime pension. They're leaving in many cases with 15 and 20 million in the bank, which means clearly they're doing side deals from insider information.
Absolutely.
That's what's grease in the palm. Mm-hmm. But they're the problem,
Yes,
and what I think Americans need to understand is this business of getting angry at a transient president who comes and goes. I'm 59, Jim. Mm-hmm. I've been lied to by Democrats.
Yep.
I've been lied to by Republicans.
Yep.
But it does seem to me that no matter who is the president of the United States, things don't change much.
Right.
This train keeps going a particular direction.
Right.
We're going deeper in debt. Mm-hmm. We're continuing global skirmishes around the globe, taking freedom everywhere, which I am quite suspect of, right?
Correct.
Empire building and global hegemony and a whole other topic. But what is your answer? Is you think about what can Americans do to hedge against the future, to take our country and our state back? What do you think we ought to focus on?
It's interesting because, we've had a couple people, and we were talking about how this whole process is really kind of like poke the bear a little bit on those of us that have been hibernating, believing in governments doing what's right for us or doing right by us.
We're happy. We've been making a good living. Life is good, right?
Correct. Our kids have education and we have some health care and we're all
bread
happy,
and circuses.
Oh, you bet. And But I think right now, in seeing what's taking place, like you said, our rights have now become permissions, and we're not really too confident that that's the way we want to live. So people are talking about, what are we going to do? We need to have some kind of bring up the whiskey rebellion. Let's have a rebellion. We have to do. But then somebody else said, well, to do a rebellion in the United States would require people to have initiative, drive, willing to give it all up, for what they believe in. And what we believe in and what we've been led to believe and what we've been fed, the Kool-Aid, which is, what we believe in is they're going to take care of us.
That's right.
And it's like, well, you can't live in your mom's basement forever. You have to get out and you have to go out on your own. But, and I agree, I think, honestly, the way for the United States now, just like they did in the late 60s, to really cause a change is to do something with these term limits for Congress.
Right on.
I really do believe that is the way for America to take the country back.
Term limits.
Term limits absolutely. I mean, originally Congress people came from their community or their state. They went up, they spent 2-4 years up in Congress representing the people that they worked next to, the people they went to church with or school with or whatever it was that they sold goods to. And then when it was over, they went down and the next person came up. They went back to work. These people don't go back to work. These people have golden parachutes.
That's right.
They retire with benefits far better than you and I could ever imagine. I get on the pedestal about how much sports people make. They get better deals than the sports athletes, but we don't think about it that way. We'll say, I can't believe that guy's playing football making $10 million. Okay, this person's going to retire with $2 million a year, full benefits, no Social Security issues. It makes, and again, if they were only in there for 8 years, they should be on that same program. They've got to have the same health care we do. They've got to have the same Social Security that we do. Like I said, you want to fix Social Security, put Congress on it.
Right on.
And that's the way to fix that problem. So I really do believe, I think somebody had said, we need to ratify, and of course, the 28th Amendment, which is term limits for Congress. Right. And again, it comes
I've seen that circulate.
Yes, and here's the thing. Who's going to vote on it?
Right.
Does Congress have to pass it? I can't really see them saying, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and shoot ourselves in the foot.
Let's give it to ourselves, guys."
Yeah, come on, and it's but it's that same thing. But that's really what the American people need to be able to really start pushing for. We need to make these people. They're not accountable. Yeah. They give themselves raises. They give themselves better benefits. Insider trading is essentially a known fact.
It is.
Because they know that this law is coming down.
Well, yeah, this stock sell off before this shit hit.
Oh,
I mean,
before the COVID-19 thing. And again, it's ridiculous. But I think that is what I see as the next public hippie movement, the grassroots of we have to do something about Congress to be able to regain control of our country.
Well, it's been very, very powerful. I can feel your energy, and I hope our listening audience feels the same. Very interesting speaking with you. And you guys go back to work. When does contracting? When do you kick it?
Technically, originally it was supposed to be May 8th. They backed it up here to May 1st. Is our first day of being able to go back to work. The governor also came out with 4 pages of guidelines for people to go back to work that we're supposed to follow.
My guess is it's not going to make your job any easier.
Oh, no. And again, there are some general contractors I know that aren't going back to work because the rules are too restrictive for them to be able to accomplish what they need to do to stay mildly profitable. Right. So they're saying, no, we're just going to have to wait this out. But there's a lot of the smaller companies, and it's like, yes, we want to get back at it. But we've got supply chain scenarios right now. We've now everyone on the same day is going to want everything delivered. I believe it. I talked to a dumpster person. I need a dumpster for a project. I need to schedule it back up because we're restarting again. And he goes, when do you need it? Because every general contractor in Pittsburgh needs new dumpsters.
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a supply chain issue. Yeah. So now our schedules are going to be off. And so the manpower supplies. And again, if one large project comes in and into Pittsburgh, one big high-rise building, whatever it might be, they could wipe out the drywall supply for this area for months because obviously our suppliers haven't been stockpiling over the time we've been shut down. So there's a lot of things. I honestly believe in the construction industry. It's going to be at least till the end of the year, till the dust kind of settles and people can say we're back to something semi-normal. And again, that's just in my industry. That doesn't affect every other single business, whether it's, again, the hairstylist, the family restaurant, those kind of things. We know so many people that have had to throw away food and alcohol and things, because
alcohol?
Yeah, well, the beer goes flat.
Okay.
The beer goes flat. If it's in the bottle, it's still usually okay.
All right.
But
alcohol. I thought that lasted good long.
Don't throw that away. But I mean, I do know some of the people in our group are bar owners and that, and it's the same thing. They've had to throw away food and things you can't, So we're still not, just May 1st is not the beginning of the solution.
Prosperity, right?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they turn it on and all of a sudden your bank account's full of cash.
No.
No. And listen to our listening audience. Really appreciate everything that you've had to say, and I hope that that people understand that people who want to go back to work, they're not bad people.
Nope.
They're people who see an entirely different set of circumstances than what people who are in a different situation, a different station in life. In fact, there's a lot of stuff floating around on Facebook, but one of the copy and paste paragraphs that I've seen 100 times is, people say we're all in the same boat. We're not in the same boat. We're in the same torrent or the same
Correct.
challenge, but some people are in a life raft, some people are in a kayak, some people are in a yacht. By the way, our politicians, they're rolling down the river in a yacht, baby.
Yeah.
A little different than the mom and pop shop situation. Right. So I tell you what, I wish you nothing but blessing and prosperity.
Thank you.
When you get to go, when things start rolling, how can people touch base with Yesco Contracting again? I know Jim McClelland does excellent work. This is an outstanding human being who is going to meet and exceed your expectations. How can people learn about you, get in touch with you, and hopefully, I hope you get swamped with business.
Oh God, like I said, I keep hoping. I'm waiting for that problem. I'm waiting for my manpower problem to show up any day now.
Yeah. Or how about the one like where you have so much money you don't really know what to do with it?
Yeah, just tell the bank no.
Yes, right.
So I'm going to tell the bank no. So the company Yesco Contracting, Yesco YESCO, actually stands for Your Exceptional Service Company. That's where the name came from. So Yesco Contracting Incorporated, we're based here in Washington, PA. We work in Washington County all the way up through Allegheny County and other outlying areas. We do commercial, we do residential, and you can reach us at the office, which is 412-997-9146, and the website is www.yescocontracting.com.
Awesome.
Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me in, being your first, guest.
Even Bob the cat came down.
Which is great. Obviously getting more comfortable with us. So,
yes.
I'd love to come back. Whatever you need. It's been a great conversation.
It's been a lot of fun, man. All right. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. My name's Tom Yakopin. This is the Tom Yakopin Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, find us on Facebook. Jim McClelland, Yesco Contracting.
Yep, thank you.
Two human beings that are hoping for the best possible outcome for every person in Pennsylvania, the United States of America, and the world. Bye for now.